Welcome to the Branford Camera Club August 2023 meeting. The meeting tonight is performed by Scott Carroll about photo booth.
It's a pleasure tonight to introduce our guest speaker. It is Scott Carroll. He is a DJ and he has a photo booth. And he's accompanied by his lovely wife, Hope. And they live in Lake City, and he does all sorts of events, including weddings and school functions. And so, Scott.
Well, this is not what I actually started out doing. You know, like she says, mobile DJing. I started out on radio. Basically, did that for many years. I've been doing it for about 40 years as far as a DJ. This I've been doing for about 6 years. We're going on 6 years. And a friend of mine who's a photographer at a wedding says, "Have you checked out photo booths?" I said, "No, they're great to have, you know, and get into it, because if I had time as a photographer, I would do it. You know, I would get into it. And I'm thinking, going back to when you used to go to carnivals and fairs, where this big, bulky photo booth was, and it would take 5 minutes or longer to get your picture, and most of them were in black and white. You know, they were actually before their time. And I'm thinking, yeah, exactly. Well, I got to looking into it, looked at different brands and so forth, and found a company out of Chicago called the Photo Booth Company. And it was actually, it could be either open or closed. But I found at weddings that I wasn't able to get everybody that wanted to be. I'd have 5 or 6 people that would want to get the picture. In an enclosed booth, it's very hard to do. I mean, they're nice because you've got different backdrops you can change. The lighting is different in them and stuff like that. So I said, okay. So we set it up. It took a long time because that thing folds out. It's like one of those tents, one of the 10 by 10 tents that folds out and all stamps up. The first photo booth I had stacked on boxes, okay, where you had in the center this exact printer sat in there, and on the second row, and then your computer and same camera that's in this one now sat on the top. This is a Canon Rebel 16 that's in here, okay? And what it is, it's controlled by a software called Darker. There's several photo booth software companies out there. I like this one because they're ideal. They really work well. You know, they really do. And they pretty well control the camera, and they control the printer. Everything is controlled through. This here is a Microsoft Surface that's in here now, where before I just used an Epson laptop, but it was a touchscreen type laptop. But no, moving forward, I had gotten it in here, and we could set it up close to the dance floor, and the guests loved it. They absolutely did. And we worked with the photographers that were over there. They would get people over there to them, you know, so it was kind of working hand in hand with us to be able to put it together and have fun. Party props, you've got to have party props depending on the theme that you use to set up. Those are more sturdy ones there and all. And then when COVID hit, we went to more, believe it or not, there's software called virtual party props. And we were able, but it was so hard to do because you had to add them in on the fly. So it took longer. It took longer to do. This is capable of doing video. Video takes longer to do than just your regular shots. But you can do video, you can do a photo booth type video and all of that. And then put it on a thumb drive for the guests at the end of the evening. Or you can email it to them however you want to do it. But like I said, once we got into it, and we started going with it, you know, in no time, it took off. Well, I got tired of those big boxes, lugging them around, because you got to stack them and lock them down to make sure nobody tips them over, and they weren't adjustable. This is a little bit more adjustable. So in February 2020, I went to a photo booth expo. Yes, there are photo booth expos. And 50-50 of them, half of them are DJs and half of them are, most of them, wedding photographers or event photographers. Okay, so it's not all DJs that do this. It's basically a lot of your photographers that are into this because they have them now that you can walk around. They had one there that literally was a robot and would go around the room and follow people and ask them if they wanted a picture. The guy was standing back there controlling, had a high-end camera in it. It wasn't a phone camera or anything like that was in it. But now they have the handheld ones that you can literally walk around. Hey, you want to do your picture? What happens is it sends it to the printer by Wi-Fi. So it goes to the printer. Okay, this printer is pretty quick. It will, a little bit later on, I'm going to let everybody go through the photo booth. Everybody has to be able to go through. We'll turn it around and we'll do it and let you guys get adequate to it. And a lot of people ask me, what is the investment in this thing? You're talking about probably about $6,000, $5 to $6 grand. Okay, this is the expensive part of it. Okay, this enclosure, I paid show price for this was about $1,200. If I'd have waited till after show price, about $1,800. Okay, because it does work hand in hand. There's a built-in flash in there. You can adjust it with the lighting. Sometimes I go in a room and it's not, and I need it a little brighter. It gets brighter, as you can see. There's a dimmer inside of it. It uses a hot shoe up top, which the hot shoe basically controls through the software, and it controls the flash that's built into there. Is what that does. The other one I didn't have to. The box or the cube one I had that Canon has a pop-up flash on it, so it used that, and then I just adjusted the light when I needed on that. I use uplighting behind it because I go in some rooms that it's dark. So I have to light up as much as I can for it to really get a good picture. And we've got to adjust it, you know how that goes. You've got to keep messing with that light till you get it just right. I knew nothing about photography. I really did when I got into this. Did I learn a lot? Yes, I did. It's set on a manual function. And I leave it on the manual function because the computer pretty well will control what needs to be done on it and all. The process, like I said, the printer, this printer uses roll paper. It comes in a roll. We call it media because when you buy the paper, it comes with ribbon. It doesn't use any kind of inkjet ink, first and foremost. That's one reason it doesn't take long to print. Most of the time, you remember the old HP 4x6s, and you would get somebody to come up and get pictures, and they wanted to print. Come back in about 30 minutes, and it should be done. 30 to 40 seconds, I've got an entire beautiful picture out on it. The other thing I do at the end of the evening is I take a thumb drive, and everything I shot, I highlight it, put it on the thumb drive. They can take it anywhere, CVS, Walmart, and get everything printed up. They can highlight what they want to print up. So it actually does the entire picture of the print that's been done. Or they can pull the photo out individually and just print the photo. It does both. It really does. It is really unique. I didn't, like I said, I was more into the party. I enjoy doing that. Well, this is part of the party.
Yeah.
There are some weddings and some events I go to that this photo booth takes over where the dance floor does not take over. And it will absolutely, they're over there hooping and hollering, and I'm talking the photo booth up, at events to try to get people to go there to it. Spontaneous, a little bit. I've had, what have you had, maybe 8 people, 8 or more. I think you've had more than that. I think you've had 12. We've had 12. And we tell them, if you can't see the camera, it can't see you. So that's the reason I got this up here, so people kind of look. The other one I had a little arrow pointing, pointing toward the camera.
It's hard to tell you look up in order to picture.
Yeah, they have a tendency to want to look at themselves on the screen, because you can actually see yourself on the screen. And we tell them, constantly keep having to do that. I could go and set this up and just let it go, but it's not the same as someone attending it, because if something goes wrong, has it went wrong? Oh yeah, it has. And I've had to come over and help get it going. Yeah, it'll let you know when it runs out of paper. It'll start turning red on you, and it definitely lets you know that. But the ways of photo booths have come a long way. They really have. Because I thought to myself, I said, is that one of them ones they got to put money in? And we've had really people look to find the dollar to put the money. We've literally had them come up with money to try to put in the side of the photo booth to do pictures. Say, no, it doesn't work that way. Now, we use it at fundraisers. Yeah, we can use it at fundraisers. And it really, it's really a fun way to raise money. We've done it at our lodge. We've had this at our Elks Lodge, and we've done some things with it, and it really worked out well. But that's something that's different. It's a different avenue, and you don't necessarily have to be in photography to do it. Like I said, I found that out. You really don't, but it helps. I'd rather hire somebody that is a photographer to man this if my wife can't do it, or I've got it, because I can't. It's very hard to do both. When you're DJing and you've got this, you have to have that attention, to be able to do it. So I ran my mouth enough on this. Does anybody have any questions?
I guess for a couple, you talked about the papers in a roll from that printer. About how many prints do you get per roll?
Oh, yeah. 800.
Oh, goodness, so it's not like...
If you do
It's according...
2x6s or 4x6s.
Yeah, we're doing what we call 2x3s and 4x6s. The old photo booths used to just do 2x3s.
Right.
And these literally, what they'll do is, I'm going to walk over here. These literally cut it automatically. When they come out, they print out two. We can do as many as we want. Most of the time when I do a wedding, they're set where they're 4x6, where that would be a 4x6 with 3 different poses on it and stuff, and they put it in a photo album. The other thing that they do with them is they will have them a little display with clothespins on them, and if they do the 2x3s, they'll clothespin them, is the way they'll do it. But it's just, like I said, it depends on what you're doing, whether you're doing a 4x6 or 2x3s. And on paper, before C, I'm using the word C, before C, I was buying, usually a case of media would have run about $100. Now we're at another $26 onto it. Of course, they have, and really the media is not as expensive as you would think that it would be. We pay for the media in no time. Even if we do a charitable event, the media is pretty well paid for. We refer to it as media. That's what it actually says on the box. And like this printer here is a DMP printer. What happens is when I run out, this printer's heavy, by the way, too. It ain't light. This pops up, and if anybody can see it, there's a roll of paper right in there. This thing here, when it cuts it, it catches the excess off of it. But yeah, it's all in the roll. And then up top of here, I'm not going to pull it out because it's still being used, is the ribbon, and that's the theory that it works on. But you get You get 2 rolls of the ribbon and 2 things of paper, so it's 400 each. It's 400. I've gotten, I think, more than that out of it, to be honest with you. I've gotten a lot more out of that being able to be done. But I have talked to a lot of people that do photo booths, and they'll do they do what they call, just where they'll email it. This thing here is supposed to work. There. They'll do an email, or they'll send it. I've been to some conventions that they've had what they call a lollipop. Okay, it's a lollipop booth. It's round with a skinny base on it, and they'll go up and they'll just do it, or they'll send it to either your phone or they send it to email. I just came back from a convention, the DJ convention last week up in Atlantic City, and they had a couple of those that they're using. But mainly they're trying to push the Wi-Fi printer from across the room and stuff like that. Or a lot of them just use, like with an iPad, they use the camera off that. I mean, phone cameras and stuff like that have come up a long way. I still prefer a single reflex. I still prefer that. I like that. It's still, I can take this out and I can use it. I can put an SD card in it, and it still works as a camera.
Yes.
You know,
Do more people want a print, or do more people want a file?
the print.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. They got something in their hand to go home with.
Right there.
When the bride, at the end of the evening, I've got a nice photo out of her, which I find her, I don't hand it to anybody else but her. Here's your thumb drive, and here is all the pictures that we took. And I'll get some, see what it is, she even gets the ones that were messed up. Because I'll get a stack of them over there, and I'll tell them, no, they're yours, you take them, you don't print them out, you won't take them, and that really, you know, I feel like them getting it in their hands is the best thing. You know, it all depends on what you're doing. Where I've done problems, they want them in their hands, because I do 2 sets of a 4x6.
That whole system comes like just like it, minus the camera, right?
Yeah, minus the camera and the computer. The computer wasn't in there. That computer is and the software. I had to every year I have to upgrade the software. You know, they usually charge me. It's about $200 a year.
They provide all the structure, right?
Yeah, all the structure and stuff like that.
Okay.
This is one of many. There are many companies out here that make these, and some of them are complete. And ones that are complete, that's about what they run. They run about $6 grand or more.
With the camera.
With the camera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with the camera. The biggest thing, and that's, you figure cameras averaging about 800. 800, that Canon retails for about 800. Now I don't even think they make that 16, that Rebel 16 anymore. I think they make an 18, or they went higher as far as resolution goes on it. They went a little higher. But that's the good thing about this, is the resolution don't have to be set real high on this, because with everything else it makes up for it. It really does. And they were one of the, what we call the templates. The templates are what kind of goes around it. In fact, you'll see when you get your prints, I've actually customized and put y'all's company, y'all's club name in that along with the date. So you can customize it. People don't realize a lot of behind the scenes stuff goes into being able to do that. You know, and brides pick their own templates. I send them what we have, and they go through them and see what they like to do. But being it's come a long way. In fact, they're even thinner. This one here is pretty thick. Some of them are even thinner than this. And they'll use Darkroom Software is the company that I use for software. But Apple has gotten on with them as far as using their iPads, whether they're iPad Pros. But that Microsoft Surface, that was made exclusively. That's the other thing you got to be careful is of what you can fit in there. You know, what's good is this serves as two things. Where what was it on the box? I have a touch screen. I have a touch screen monitor that's on the box. It hooks to the computer, so I can see what's going on behind the scenes on the laptop. And the laptop was touch screen too. So I had to get used to being able to be right here where we could see it.
How long does it take you to set that thing up every time?
We preset this up. It's usually what, about an hour? If I pulled it, I have a big case that this thing fits in with styrofoam all around it. I do a lot of, we brought this in already set up and left the case at home, and I brought the styrofoam molding for this. But normally this all sits in one huge case that is on wheels. Yes. That was the other thing with that stackable photo booth, is you had to stack those things. You know, it took up a lot of real estate. When you break this thing down, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of screws and the bolts that hold this thing together. On a good way here.
Was that Velcro on there?
Yeah. It came this way. The lights, the LED lights that they had in here, that the company put in. First off, this photo booth was built by Odyssey, which they build DJ booths. They build cases for DJ controllers and cases, amble cases and stuff like that. And when I saw this one, I liked it because it is durable. It's metal. It's not, so it's got some weight to it, toward it. So, but I went basically to Five Below and bought their little $5 LEDs, and I got the most strongest double stuff I could find. And yeah, they're USBs plugged in and around and up there. And what's in here, this is the power, this runs everything up here, plus there's a USB printer cable running up
Have you ever
here.
used that outside if you need with a generator?
That, I don't go anywhere without an uninterrupted power supply. Let me tell you what, if you're in the middle of a photo shoot,
You got a storm coming.
yeah, power goes out, we're still pretty well, it's up to 119 volts, so we're, you know, but if it goes out, it's going to keep this whole thing, because it will hurt, you know, especially, and it always times it out. What does it do when you go to print something? Boom.
Yeah.
The power goes out.
Of course.
I know. But yeah, it has some neat features on it. I mean, I can make it. I can change the colors, you know, as well if I want to.
Do they pulse stake with your music?
I believe it will. Hold on. There it goes. You know, it'll change color.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think it's storming outside. Yes.
It's raining there?
Yes.
But yeah, that's one of the little added features that has on it as well. And later on, if you want to come back here and look, you can see where the camera's mounted at. It has its own mounting plate, and basically a lot of zip ties holding those big power supply blocks
Yeah, right.
that you have to have. You have to have in here to run various things, you know, and as a USB hub.
So what's your limitations on the range if you're outside of that, Scott? I mean, say you wanted to do a landscape. I don't know.
The way it's set up for about 4 to 5 feet. So when we turn this around, we're about, I counted off, usually about 5 feet from the wall.
Oh,
The other thing is the variations I meant to mention is backdrops. We didn't bring backdrops with us. Brides like to customize their backdrops. If I'm at a rustic barn, like if I'm over at Rustic Oaks over there in what, High Springs, they've got that old tin rustic background, perfect background.
Oh, yeah.
And it matches a lot of, because I have a picture that has wood grain as far as the template goes. And when you set that rustic background against it, it stands it out. And a lot of this has been trial and error with this.
Can you change your lenses, or is it, you have to?
Yeah, I can change the lenses
No,
on.
I mean, can you, like a telephoto or wide, extreme wide angle or anything? You can't.
I leave it and set it and pretty well.
But they recommend just stay with.
Just stay right
What do you use,
by.
like a 50 millimeter?
I think it's a 50. That's
Oh,
in there.
okay. Okay, that's standard, yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
We should be able to-
Speaking of,
What it is, I don't think this, what it is this thing's not completely, charged up yet.
can you imagine I'm out in the woods someplace, trying to tell a picture and all these lights are blinking in there? That's a cop's light. That's wild.
Anybody got any more? The other thing is too, do I have it in here? The other thing that they built this case for this will hook to the hot chute and basically slides down and mounts onto the top of that. And then if I need more light, I can use that. It has shutters on it. It has shutters on it and everything else. Yeah, and
That's
it's,
the backdrop. That's pretty much for your backdrop.
that lights that backdrop.
Yeah.
But what it does, it lights, if I'm not really wanting to use this that much, I can switch over to this. But yeah, it has a built-in, it will pretty much, there's a plug there on the back of it that you can plug the hot shoe in, and it basically turns that flash off that's in there and does that. And it will do up to four poses. I've got it set for 3. It does up to 4 poses all in a row, okay? Most of the time what I'll do at weddings, I'll do one big pose, bigger picture, and then 3 small ones. Is how that works. And they're about, I can adjust it whether it's 6 seconds or 8 seconds. Because I always get this, wait a minute, I'm not ready yet. And they get that spontaneous shot. It happens because it's when I trigger this thing to go, it's going. It's counting down. And it will go till it goes through, it automatically does that. Yeah. You'll see when we get a chance that everybody gets an opportunity to run through it. Have some of y'all ever been somewhere and seen photo booths or seen something similar to this?
Not just a regular booth.
Let me tell you what, if you find one of those things, and they restore them. There is, when I was at that photo booth expo back in February of 2020, right before the big seat bang that we had, there were vintage photographers they use them still. Now they've changed them out to digital because they can't get the chemicals anymore. And those chemicals were dangerous. They had people who knew what they were doing. They showed them wearing gloves. We're not talking your actual, some of that stuff is not like darkroom, going in a darkroom and developing. It's a totally different, because you're trying to do what they call, I think they call it flash developing or something anything like that. It was a totally different thing that they would do. That's the reason when that picture would take, you'd be like, sometimes you would blink through it because it was a very intense, it was a special type of camera that they used in those, and everything else. It was amazing to go back and look at that. Yeah, they've switched them over to digital. They still got their woodwork going. They're heavy. Nobody wants to carry them around. The other thing what people are doing is they're taking old vintage campers and they're turning them into photo booths.
Really?
Yeah, they're just big enough. They've got at least 4 to 5 feet of room to work in those things. They have the party props on the outside before you step into the camper. You pick out what you want, and you go in, and the attendant's in there, and the photo booth usually is in that far corner, and that's what they'll use. They use an old camper.
So you must get a line of people away, right, just to get their pictures? They line up?
You've had 30, 40 people in a line. Now, yeah, we've probably had almost 100 different, pictures that have went out. That's now an average wedding. Usually, it's half of them that'll go through. The other half, I don't want to do it. I see them drag them over. The wife is dragging the husband over.
The kids are dragging them.
Or the kids are dragging. The other thing is, for kids, we end up with a step stool so that they can, so that they can do.
You don't want to talk to her, right?
The other thing is, if you're over 6 foot, you're going to have to. What's good is this.
Sort of put the chair.
This knob up here in the top, it adjusts. There's a plate that the camera's sitting on, and it will adjust that. It will adjust the height of that lens. And of course, I do care. I have a cap back there that goes over. I'm very, very taking care of. You take care of your gear, and it's going to take care of you.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard that quite a bit. You can't put enough around. When I've known photographers with lenses, it takes them 10 minutes because they got to take the back cap off, then the front. First they got to unwrap it because they've got so much cushion and stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with that. You absolutely, I said, we'll start to buy it. We used to say photography is an expensive hobby, but it's not what it's what you get out of it. It really is. And this is only a part, this is only a great part of it. It's a party part of it. Like I said, we've got frames that people hold up. We've had them with their names on them. We've, with Facebook, the biggest thing with Facebook, because they'll take those thumb drives and they'll put them on Facebook. So they'll end up on social media. But I let them do that. Right. That keeps me out of the legal legality because I had someone want to go directly from this to Facebook. It will connect on Wi-Fi and do that. Problem is, we're in a rural area. Sometimes you don't always get that great. So I tell them, look, you've got your thumb drive. You're able to go and put it on what you would like to, what media you want to put it on. That's right. Not what all I'm doing is providing a service for you.
How long does that? Okay, so you get this roll of paper, you get maybe 400 or 800 pictures off it, right? How long does that ribbon last that's in there?
Usually, I'll tell you the truth, you know what usually runs out on this? It's not paper, it's the ribbon. And I talked to someone from this company, this DMP, and they said that's about right. You'll probably have maybe about 10 prints left, because I went to enroll it, and I'm like, man, what's going on? I called the company. They said, it's made so that there's always extra prints because it depends on what you're using. Like Hope said, it depends on how intense that you have the temper as to how that goes.
Which is more expensive than paper or ribbon?
It all comes, it's a kit.
Oh, it's a kit.
It comes together. You don't buy it separate. The only maintenance to this, there's rollers in here, and I have these little things that look like markers. They have some kind of, they probably got like denatured alcohol in it, and it's used to clean off the rollers. Because there is rollers in there, and they're periodically, I try to do it when I can. Now, if I'm in between changing paper, no, I don't like to, I don't like to be able to mess with that. And the other thing is backdrops or endless. We have literally done, at the church I was at, we did a theme. We did a Star Wars theme. Says, I need to find some kind of backdrop. She found a Star Wars shower curtain.
But it wasn't, it was the material type.
It was material type.
Yeah.
And that's what we used for the backdrop for the Star Wars theme. And it worked.
Yeah.
We've got their, do we have any? Yeah. I do have things here. Yeah, this is the case for the prayer. This is heavy. It's not. You feel it. That's photo grade type backdrop. Because it's not as thick. Because the worst thing you can do is get. And where they like to set me up at, one time and several times, in front of a window. Oh, that's how you're going to face that. Yeah, I'll send y'all the diagram, send y'all the picture how it's normally set up. I always try to tell them, give me a solid wall, and then give me something that I can use. These are the flights, the little down to one that I have to work with old Amazon. But this is what I give. This is the little thumb drive here that I give the client at the end of the evening. Every one of them, no matter what kind of event I do, they get all the pictures. Otherwise, I'll be sitting there printing out pictures just for them. No. I save it in iArchive. Nothing like the cloud. You can save them, and that's the way I do it. So, but I have seen some of the most simplest photo booth set up where they just put a regular single reflex camera on a tripod, but then they don't get those actual prints. They'll give them the SD card that was in the camera, and that'll be, they'll make a copy of it off their laptop or whatever and hand it to them. I've seen that done. Yeah. This is more of a ladder, it's more wow.
I would look pretty well in the cemetery at night,
Yeah. The other thing I do is, when we get this set up, we drape it. Because people have a tendency to want to come in, oh, what's this? And as soon as they hit that touch screen, wow, yeah. I try to leave it, once I've got it powered up, I try to leave it where it's powered up. So, I mean, that's, like I said, that's on the photo booth. That's what we've been able to accomplish. Our first year, we did really well on it. But after all this has happened in 2020, it's really kind of backed us down. We're starting to get back up there again. But no, the versatility of this is just, it's endless. I mean, there's really, and even like I said, even with the software, it gives you the opportunity to do the email. It gives you the opportunity to send it, social media if you want. My preferred, and when I talk to the client, would you rather have a print in your hand? Yeah. Can you do that? Because it's a question that they do ask because others they've talked to, that's all they want to do. They only want to send it by email. People, like I said, prefer to have it in their hand. And I know when you all get pictures probably printed out, you look at them on the computer all day long. But if you've got actual prints in your hand, you feel better yourself and all. But I give them the opportunity because they don't want me to stop and get more pictures, and I'll tell them, you come back to me at the end of the evening, I can find where your picture was, and we can do a reprint real quick. And I've done that, if we got time to do that. There's some places, venues I have to be out of pretty quick. But if they want that, I've done that. But mostly I tell them whoever the contact person is at that event, you know, and if it's a wedding, the bride has them, and she can get you some extras. But that's mostly what we'll do is what they call couple prints, which is 2. And I do appreciate y'all. Thank you. This is their top, this is up top,